What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm excited because I'm going to be doing a 2021 new knife of the year video. And before I jump into that, I just want to give full disclosure. I know that there's probably some knives that I've perhaps overlooked. I'm doing this based solely on knives that I've had exposure to, that I've used and handled, and really have enjoyed that have come out this year. If I've missed any, feel free to leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think that I missed and why you think it should be the knife of the year. Could be that there's a chance that I missed a knife that came out in 2021 because there were so many new releases, so many great knives, and there's a lot of strong competition out there. So I just wanted to cover that before we jump into the actual knives and before we jump into the actual top 5 list, because I'm just doing the top 5, which was really hard to do. I'm going to do some of my honorable mentions. First is the CJRB Scoria. The Scoria has a 3.48 inch AR RPM 9 blade steel, a 4.53 inch micarta, which I think is very beautifully done. Overall length is 8.01 inches, and it's coming in at a very lightweight 3.53 ounces. I like the coated blade. I think it looks really good. I really like their micarta. It almost looks like wood grain, the way that it has I guess the way the die's done or the way the lines here are done. Really nice. A nice touch here is it has a titanium pivot collar. It has a titanium deep carry pocket clip, and I believe, if I recall correctly, titanium thumb studs. This is a really thin slicey knife. I have really enjoyed my exposure thus far with AR RPM 9. I haven't had to sharpen any of these because I haven't gotten a whole lot of use with them because I haven't had them for very long, and there's a couple of knives that I have that has this blade steel. I also like the fact that it has a swedge, so that reduces the drag, helping this slicey knife even feel slicier. Should just cut through anything like butter. The reason that this doesn't make it into the top 5 is because I think the other knives that are going to be on this list are just better. I don't love how tall this flipper tab is. I wish they would have put some jimping on here and made it just a tiny bit smaller. I think they could have definitely done it a little bit smaller because the action is so smooth and the detent's really well tuned. I love the thumb stud action. Works really, really well. So that's the first honorable mention. My second honorable mention for new knives in 2021 is going to be the Sig K320 by Hogue. This knife has a 3.5 inch S30V blade, 4.75 inch polymer handles, a total length of 8 inches, and coming in at 4.18 ounces. I really do like this knife a lot. There's a couple of things that held it back for me, and I know some people are going to probably think immediately that it is the polymer, and yeah, the polymer is not premium, but you know, this knife comes in at under $130 with S30V. Coated or uncoated, if you go to Knife Center, they have the exclusive stonewashed version, which I think looks really good. But it also gives you a crossbar lock, which is a really strong locking system in the deployed position. Now, if you've seen my review of this, you know that it doesn't retain the knife in the closed position very well, as you can see there, but it functions and actuates. It functions and actuates very well, and the only thing that really kind of held it back for me a little bit is because both my Benchmade bug out with the Omega springs have broken, and the Hogue Deca had an Omega spring broke. I didn't have any break on the Doug Ritter, but because it has broken and I have some aftermarket springs ready to go for when these do break inevitably, that kind of held it from being in the top 5 for me. Otherwise, ergonomics are really good. This to me feels like a work knife. The finger choil is done really good, and the hand position is done really good on the handle without keeping you too far back from the knife's edge, which I really like a lot. So this is another honorable mention. The last honorable mention, it's going to be 2 knives that I'm going to bring out here, because there's 2 versions and I happen to pick up one of each, and that's going to be the Civivi Elementum button locks. I like these knives a lot. They have 3.5 inch 14C 28N blade steels coated. I don't know if there are any that are uncoated. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. They have a 4.5 inch micarta and G10 variant. and the overall length 8 inches and coming in at 3.42 ounces. So very lightweight, very fidgetable EDC knives. In the end, what kept them off the list for me is the only means of deployment are the button lock, which I think is really reliable. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. It works really well, and it was really well tuned, really well done. The G10 and the micarta on these guys are done very, very well, offering plenty of grip. And I think that they have a lot of nice finishing touches. But again, that button lock being one of the reasons I didn't think that they deserve to be in the top 5, and the other being the pocket clip here being something that kind of digs into your palm a little bit when you're using these knives. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the top 5 new knives of 2021 for my list. And again, full disclosure, these are just my picks. You're totally justified in agreeing or disagreeing with these picks, or if you think that they're not in the right order. This is just my opinion, and that's it, just my opinion. So I respect if you don't agree. I don't mind that you don't agree, and I expect that some people are going to completely disagree. But I want to have some fun and do this list anyway, so let's go ahead, jump into the top 5. At number 5 is going to be the Civivi Imperium. The Imperium has a 3.47 inch Nitro V steel blade, which I really liked. This particular version is stone washed, and you can see the Nitro V right there. I think, hopefully I'll zoom in so you can see that. It has a 4.36 inch G10 handle or carbon fiber, which I think really looks good. I love the shredded carbon fiber that Civivi has done on the Imperium. I don't have any exposure to any of their other shredded carbon fiber, but this looks really, really good. Overall length on the Imperiums are 7.83 inches, and the weight is 3.15 ounces. The reason I feel like these belong in there is because they're really well done. I'm really excited about the Nitro V steel that you get at this price point, which is really outstanding. The action is superb. You get both the front flipper and thumb stud deployment in case you're not a really good front flipper. The reverse flick on this works really well. The weight's really good. The profile and ergonomics are really, really nice, because this, for me, is a really good EDC knife, something you can carry into a formal environment, formal setting, that you can carry every day, that you can use to break down your boxes, get into your packages and envelopes, cut whatever it is that you need to work on. It's going to perform really well. The ceramic bearings are always really tuned nicely. I have not encountered a Civivi that does not have really well tuned ceramic bearings or action on their knives. The one reason that this is lower down on the list, it could have potentially been higher, but the factory pocket clip was a big turnoff for me. You can see on the G10 variant, I threw the old Civivi Elementum pocket clip on there, and you can just see how it just tucks down and keeps from being a hot spot in the hand. And I think just the approach angle and everything on it, really well done. And I've had no issues with getting these in and out of the pocket. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set these off to the side. I think a lot of you are going to be really surprised that this is so low on the list. I think there's a lot of people that love this knife, and there's justified reason for that, but I'll get into why I think it's number 4 on the list. At the number 4 spot is going to be the new for 2021 Demco AD20.5. The Demco has a 3-inch AUS 10A blade steel. As you can see here, it has a very nice stone wash to it. Looks really good. I even like the little touch of the Demco signature way back on the blade here. It has a 4.5-inch Grivery reed plastic injected molded handle. Really done by really well done bi-directional pattern here, providing plenty of grip. They're like little diamond cuts. So the texture is really, really grippy and really nice in hand. Overall length is 7.375 inches and coming in at a lightweight 3.52 ounces. So I'm sure some of you are probably surprised that this has landed in the number 4 spot and probably not higher. And I would even venture to guess that some folks watching this video may have probably put this at the number 1 spot. So I'm going to start with the good, and then I'll end on what kind of held it back for me. The ergonomics, really, really nice, very comfortable in hand. I like the fact that it is very thin in profile and has minimal footprint in the pocket. That's really impressive. Really good weight. It is not a deep carry pocket clip, and this is one of the cons for me for an EDC knife. Now, if this is a work knife, and it very well can handle some heavy duty use, and we'll get there in just a second. If you're wearing gloves, this is a lot of knife to be left out of the pocket for you to grip onto, which is a really good thing. But from an EDC, I'd like it to be about here, really, just to be able to grab it, because I can kind of grab the clip on the outside, my finger nestles in there nicely, thumb will slide down into the pocket and slide it out. And even if you're coming from the top, anything that you grip onto with this Grivery finish is going to be really, really grippy. The back spacer, even though it looks like it has jimping across it, I don't notice that in hand. So I'm not sure how much that actually is helping with the grip. Could be different with some gloves on, as I mentioned. The jimping on the back is perfect. Really well done. It's not overly aggressive, but offers plenty of traction. Now, one of the things that I noticed when I come back on the knife a little bit, I'm kind of engaging the shark lock a little bit, and you can see that kind of like if your thumb just hits it, it's moving around a little bit. So you do have to be slightly cognizant to make sure that you move up and you don't engage that, but you do not feel that in the hand at all, and it offers a little bit of a choke up here. I imagine when you bring your finger up to choke up, that's where you're really going to take advantage of that jimping. So whatever task you're performing where it requires you to get up on the blade with the thumb out over the jimping, that's going to be really helpful to get out there on that jimping. But when you're back on the blade, you just have to be cognizant, again, that your thumb doesn't hit that, because you can see it starts to activate where it's completely locked up. Now, the thumb studs are really well done. If anything, I would say they're really aggressive without being offensive or intrusive. So they're plenty big, and I think, again, when you're wearing gloves and working, that's going to be really, really handy. Get the knife out, cut through whatever it is that you need to get through. If you need to power through, or if you need to choke up and get that finger over top of that little finger guard, you're going to be able to do that with plenty of comfort. Whatever you need to do, get that shark lock closed. Now let's talk a minute about the clip point. The clip point is really well done. I debated between the shark foot and the clip point. Ended up going with the clip point. A little bit more blade length on the clip point. Still plenty of a beefy enough of a stock that I think it's going to be able to handle lots of tasks. And the point is plenty acute, and it's going to really help you with any kind of task where you're required to pierce. Like if you're trying to break into the board for the initial cut, that's going to be really good for that. It's still going to be plenty good for the utility cuts. You do have to come up a little bit, but it's not too bad. You can really get down onto that tip if you have good sized hands to be able to guide draw cuts. So I prefer this over the shark foot in this instance. I like a lot of Warncliffes and a lot of cleavers and sheep foot, but for this particular knife and the work task that I think I'm going to be using it for, I felt like the clip point was the better way to go. The detent is really good, and you can just, again, thumb flick, reverse flick all day long. The thumb hole, I feel like it's plenty usable. The problem I run into here is that because there's really nowhere for the meat of my thumb to kind of engage, you kind of end up using the thumb stud a little bit on the thumb deployment. I'm not quite sure why they had both. I think that a blade would have been just fine deploying it with the holes without the thumb studs, but I guess going back to the glove reference, because I do think that they took that heavily into consideration with their design, is that this is going to be a work knife. You're going to be out in the field. You might have gloves on with whatever task you're performing. It's going to be easier to deploy with gloves using the thumb studs. Now, let's talk about that shark lock. When I first got the knife, I actually recorded this right about the time that I got the knife as far as my top list. And if you go back and watch the video where I did the unboxing, the blade came extremely tight and the lock was really strong, really strong. And what I ended up doing was kind of breaking the knife down. I broke the knife down, cleaned everything off, and then re-oiled it. And ever since I've done that, the action has been really smooth. The other thing that I've done is for like a week straight, I'll go to work with the knife in this position so that the lock is fully recessed back. It has no more room to go. And the reason that I did that was to compress the spring and keep tension on it all day to try to loosen it up a little bit, to try to speed up the break-in period. Because what I was finding is that when I'm using the shark lock, and I don't know if that's because I have large hands, but it was leaving an indentation on my finger. And that's fine, because that happens sometimes with flippers and other things that I use for deployment, but it actually was starting to hurt. I don't know if my thumb's toughening up and the spring has broken in some, but when I first got it, it was just way too tight. Not just the action, but the shark lock spring, way too strong to actuate. Now, the other thing that kind of killed it for me a little bit, and I'm going to get into the last thing, which is going to be the big thing that really kills this for me being higher on the list, and it's going to come down to price. For AUS 10A Grivery, even though it is the shark lock, and I understand Demco is smaller, I understand what's going into manufacturing this blade, I get all of that, I appreciate and respect that, and that is why it's on this list. But the reason it's kept down at number 4 is because I honestly think if this knife was $130 to $135, this probably would be my new knife of the year. Alternatively, what I think could have happened is they could have done either G10 or micarta. They could have done 20 CV or something comparable, S35VN even though S45VN is now out and you see them on Spyderco's and other knives, but even S35VN with G10 and micarta, I would pay $175 for that. I would actually pay more for a little bit more premium knife steel and premium handle materials. And again, it's the combination of the two. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm knocking AUS 10A. I just think they got the price wrong. And I'm not in business. I don't know what the returns are versus what the cost is for such a smaller company just starting out is for a knife. And the shark lock, based on everything that I'm hearing, really strong. I got a really good look at the system. When I do the skiff bearings on this later, I'll make sure to do a full install so you guys can see that if you're interested in that. I get that, but hear me out. You're getting from Benchmade S30V, which I think is a better steel. I like it better than the AUS 10A. You're getting the Grivery handles, and you're getting it at $140, and it's made in the USA. And you get the axis lock, right? And again, you're getting that with the Grivery handles at $140. So let's say it was even $140 for the shark lock. Perhaps it's a little bit easier of a pill to swallow. That price point for the entry level versus getting the premium, I feel like that really gives folks the options to decide. Again, 20 CV, S35VN, micarta, G10, I would be willing to pay $180, call it. If you're going to bring AUS 10A as your entry level model, if you can do it, if you can deliver it at around $130, $140, that little bit of difference to me is huge. So that's the main reason and the final reason why this ended up on the list at number 3. It is very exciting that they got a new lock, something different on the system, but I'm trying to be realistic about what you can get for your money. I really think that the price point is just off. It just misses for me, and that's what brings it down. Anyway, I'm beating a dead horse. This is my number 4 pick. Again, I'm sure some of you are going to agree or disagree, or maybe even some of you might not think it deserves to be on the list at all, but I wanted to explain how it's so far down on the list for a knife that's been so popular in 2021. Let's go on and get to the next knife. At the number 3 spot, and I think a lot of you are going to be really surprised that this knife came up higher on the list than the Demko AD20.5, but there's good reason for that, and I'm going to get into why I think this is a justified number 3 entry on the list, and that's going to be the Civivi Cogent. The Cogent has a 3.47 inch 14C 28N blade steel. You can see that on the flipper tab, possibly. I'll zoom in so that you can see that just in case. It looks like I can through the camera. It has a 4.41 inch G10 handle. Really well done. Lots of jimping and knockdown and markups for you to have plenty of grip on this knife. And Civivi redid their pocket clip for this version, and they knocked down this piece here, and it no longer digs in hand. Overall length 8 inches and weight coming in at 3.64 ounces. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be surprised that I put this above the AD20.5, but hear me out. Number one, this is far less money. Far less money. For the price point you can get this knife, I believe it's under 70 bucks. 14C28N coated. You can get it plain edged, or you can get a combo edge where it's serrated and it's straight. The clip point's done really well. The ergos are phenomenal. And Civivi did a really good job on a flipper button lock combo. I think this is just a phenomenal example of how you can do and deliver a button lock at a really affordable price. I mean, this thing is really well tuned. I like the action, I like the sound, and you can see here this is a true plunge button lock. It has a spring underneath. The tab comes out, and that's what locks the blade into place, and it just has fall shut action. The weight's really well done. I expect that we'll probably see some more combinations of color and options from the Cogent, and I imagine that we're going to see many more button locks from Civivi because it's been very well received, very justifiably so. That is my number 3 new knife of 2021 pick. Let's go ahead and jump into number 2. At the number 2 spot is going to be my Protech Malibu. This one here is a 3.3 inch 20 CV with a 4.25 inch aluminum handles with integrated backspacer. The weight on this one is a claimed 2.99 ounces. Mine, when I weighed it, was actually 3.01 ounces, so a little bit more. I mean, just a hair, and that could be the difference between the drop point and the reverse Tonto variants for all I know. This is a knife that's done really well. This is what I was talking about when I mentioned that the Demko, for a little bit more money, could have offered a more premium knife steel. This has the CPM 20 CV, and it's a stonewash that's done really well. What held it back from me from the number 1 spot is the fact that they don't have that frag pattern that's available on the Runt 5. I've seen the aluminum with the frag pattern, and I think that would have offered more secure grip in hand. While this feels plenty secure in hand, I do think that there is a little bit of slickness going to it. I also do like that their coating, you can kind of see where it was sanded down. So you know how you can see the grind on certain finishes of knives? I feel like you can kind of see that grind in the handle, which I really do like. And I do like the coating, and the action feels really good in hand. I have no lock stick. Mine is drop shut. Really good action, just super smooth and a joy to use, and a really good EDC size. So this is why it landed at number 2 and not number 1 for me. Also, the pocket clip not being reversible for lefties, I think, I think that might have been a missed opportunity. I believe, unfortunately, Protech wanted to go for that really clean look, which is why you don't see the frag pattern on this one and why you don't have that reversible pocket clip. But I think they really missed an opportunity there, in my opinion. Also, the jimping on the flipper tab, really well done. Super grippy without being too aggressive, in my opinion. So that is my number 2 for new knife of the year in 2021. My number 1 pick and the winner for new knife of 2021, new knife of the year 2021, is going to be the MKM Goccia. This has a 3.5-inch Bowler M390 blade steel. It has 4.6-inch titanium handles and an overall length of 7.9 inches and weighing in at 4.77 ounces. I know a lot of people are probably going to be a little surprised that I have this in my number 1 new knife of the year for 2021, but I think it's highly justified. Ceramic bearings give this really good action. The very low profile flipper tab is done really well and works phenomenally. You can't really fail this the way the detent and the bearings work. I'm trying to push it slowly and it still just comes out really nicely. I love the fact that it's got the titanium handles contoured with this texturing. I personally like the and I know that I personally like the look. And I think, again, that does come down somewhat to personal preference, but I think it looks really good. It reminds me of what it would look like on the inside of a tree, where you can see the lifespan of the tree when it grows. It has a titanium pivot with a titanium pivot collar, titanium backspacer, and the lanyard hole is not in the way of the actual pocket clip. Pocket clip is titanium. It's recessed into the handles with flat screws. It lays flat along the body, in and out of the pocket really smooth. The texturing that I do like does not hinder it coming in and out of the pocket smoothly. I love the fact that they did not make this a frame lock so that you can use it as a lefty, even though it doesn't have that reversible deep carry pocket clip, which I think probably is justified in this instance because I just really like the look. I mean, I went back and forth on it. It was really tough to decide whether or not I needed a knock off for that, but I really just like the look so much that I didn't feel like I needed a knock off for the fact that it could not be reversed. That liner lock that I mentioned that's done as an integral piece to the handle is really kind of stiff at first, but as it's been used and as I've actuated it, it's really broken in nicely, and now it's really easy to, not easy, but it's acceptable, very acceptable and okay for me to unengage the liner lock to close it and put it in the closed position. The bowler, MKM seems to be doing a really good job with their bowler M390, which I really like. I know it's trying to focus past the knife. You know, I think the blade steel probably is going to come down again to a little bit of preference, just like the looks are going to come down to preference. I just think this knife, the action, what you get for the money, because they do have a micarta version that you can have for under $200 that has that bowler M390 that MKM seems to be doing really well. I do believe they still give you the titanium deep carry pocket clip on the micarta variant, but I think it's just really good value. I like the look, the blade shape, the drop points done really nicely, coming down to a really nice tip. Lots of cutting surface on the belly. It's a little, I mean, it's not super thin behind the edge, but it's still going to be pretty slicey. It does have a thick stock, but this is still going to slice right through anything that you need to cut through. Again, really like the look. I think this definitely 100% far above and beyond anything else that was on the list is the 2021 new knife of the year for me, hands down. Let me know what you guys think, what your picks were, if you agree with any of the knives that were on my list, if I missed anything that you think that I should have looked at or maybe should have included. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like for me. Consider subscribing if you want to be part of the community. I'd love to have you. Totally up to you. If you do subscribe, don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss alerts when new videos drop and content that you might want to check out. I thank you all for tuning in with me. I hope you all have a wonderful new year and that 2022 is phenomenal for all of you guys out there. Thanks for the support, and until next time, peace.